Hi, this is 50 Shades of Stefanya, where I talk about anything and everything under the sun, under the shade, wherever, along with my guests. I hope you join me. So, you want to be a writer? Good luck. I'd like to introduce you to somebody who could shed some light on that topic. Published author and editor at TWB Press, Mr. Terry Wright. He'll be joining us shortly. Hello, Terry. Are you on?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, this is good. Hello, everybody. Hey, this is Terry Wright. He is published author and editor at TWB Press. Actually, we met through some mutual friends. So, hello, Terry.
Hi, how you been? This is cool. Podcast.
Good.
Wow.
Well, I'm really glad that we can do this because I know you have some wonderful stories that you could share about what you're doing and how you're helping all of these wonderful authors that you're working with. But just so everybody knows, I met Terry and his lovely bride, Babette, years ago at a party. And actually, it was my first time. It was a game night. And so I went to this party and I was talking to some people and they said, "Oh, well, hey, well, we've got some friends here." And then I happened to have mentioned that I was working on a book. And they said, "Oh, you're working on a book." Well, I got to introduce you to this couple. Terry is a publisher, a book publisher. And of course I went, "Oh." So they took me to Terry. And one of the first questions, I told him, I'm working on this book. And the first question he asked me, he said, "Is it finished?" And I said, "No, it's, I've got the first 10 chapters written." And he said, "Finish it and I will read it." And I was like, "Oh my God." So that totally gave me inspiration. And so anyway, I ended up finishing the book, The Berlin Affair, which Terry had read and edited. He didn't throw it in the trash. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, I have the copy as well. It's on Amazon. Woohoo!
Yep.
Anyway, but also through TWB Press, you would definitely be able to get it that way. But anyway,
yeah, if you go to twbpress.com and go to romance, you'll see it there, and it has all the links and even a cool video trailer I made for you.
Yes. And so anyway, it's been a wonderful adventure getting to know Terry through this process and the editing process. And so anyway, so Terry, tell us a little bit more about yourself, something personal.
Something personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just get down and dirty.
Wow.
Well, maybe not that dirty.
I know. Vietnam veteran. Served 4 years in the Air Force, got out, started my own auto repair shop, got to writing books, kind of a passion of mine. And, I like Michael Crichton and James Patterson and John Irving. So I had some good background in, what do you call it? Background help by, you see, I'm messing up.
No worries about it.
I'm trying to think of the word, but I had some good influence. So I sat down seriously and started writing The 13th Power back in 95. Took me 6 years to write it. 3 years to write it, 3 years to fix it, a total of 6 years. And I got picked up by a publishing company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a small press. It was a start. Got me an agent. Yeah, that didn't turn out too well. That was an 8-year jaunt. But he did get me to writing screenplays. So I wrote some screenplays, and 3 of them, and entered them in the international screenplay competition. And guess what? All of them finaled. The duplication factor was 3rd in science fiction. It's a great learning process, as well as the fact that I was with the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers for 19 years. And during that time, I judged their contest. I judged contests for other writers groups, and learning from other people's mistakes.
Hey,
So
that's
I've been
always
at it
great.
almost 30 years now. So,
Well, that sounds great. Well, how many authors have you published?
well, the ones that I actually have on my list right now, because, they come and go. I've got 40 authors, 110 titles. So it's been keeping me pretty busy.
And why do you publish so much? Why do you publish, so many new writers?
Well, the writing business is a tough business, and it moves at a snail's pace, glacial, and nothing ever gets done. So I said, I can do this. I ran an auto repair shop for 36 years. I can sure as run a publishing company. And I decided in 2007 that I would start my own publishing company, first to publish my novels, and second to help other people get their foot in the door, get a book in their hand. And that's proved to be very rewarding.
That's
Um,
great.
Authors get real excited to see their book, to get it published, to get a contract, but it's not an easy trip. There's a lot of editing, a lot of back and forth till the story melds out.
Well, so what is your overall goal with your publishing business?
Yeah, my goal is that one of my authors break out. I certainly didn't. I'm hoping one of them breaks out, sells 1 million copies, and good for the author, absolutely good for me. And I'm like any other publisher. They never know what book is going to sell, so they pick the best that they can, put them out there, and see what sticks.
Sure.
So
Best
that's
way to do it.
what I do. Same as New
Well,
York.
so I have a joke for you. So did you hear about the hypnotist who fell into a trance reading her own book? That's more of a groaner. Never mind.
Is it? No, you got to see it through. You got to see it through.
Okay. Hey, so I know you've written a few novels yourself. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of your novels that you've written?
Yeah, well, I started out with the 13th Power. I'll throw a little copy of that in here. I made a trilogy.
That's a good book, by the way. That's a good book.
And then I got into The Duplication Factor, which is a human cloning story, and just kind of off the cuff, trying to make something so unreal sound real. And then I got into this one right here. The Pearl of Death.
Oh,
it's actually based on a true story. And I had a lot of fun with that, mixing history, myth, legend, and filling all the gaps with fiction. And the whole idea is that when the reader reads this story, they got no idea what is fact, what is fiction, what is myth. It just all sounds like one story.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that. Then my latest one was Blackjack. He's a Denver cop. Got himself in trouble when he killed the guy he thought that killed his wife. So, poor Jack.
And I've read all of his books. They're very good. They're very good.
Thank you.
So your primary. Oh, go ahead. What?
I was going to say I got a few short stories out there too. They're all on TWBpress.com. So anybody want to check one out? There's even a free one. You'll have to look and see which one it is, though.
Well, I highly recommend going to the TWB Press site. So Terry, you really seem to enjoy the thriller, the science fiction, and maybe some horror type of stuff, chiller. You seem to really enjoy that genre.
Oh yeah, it allows you to go places that just your contemporary stories don't let you go. You got to stay within a reality that everybody knows, and going out on the limb with science fiction or supernatural, puts a twist on things. I think when I look at a story, I see layers. And like one of my favorite movies is King Kong. And it's a romance, believe it or not. And so is The Terminator, is a romance. And every good story has an element of romance in it. You know, guys out there, you want to write books, write for the ladies. 80% of fiction readers are women. So write for women. Make sure that, you know, it's not all murder and mayhem.
Well, okay. So speaking about writers, at what point do you think somebody could call themselves a writer?
And you sit down and write. A writer writes. You know, everybody wants to be a famous author. Well, I can't say everybody. Some people want to be football players. I don't get it. But if you want to be a writer, you got to do the work. You got to sit at the, it's called BICFOK, butt in chair, fingers on keyboard. Write the story of your heart and fix it later.
Makes sense.
But it's not easy. 97% of writers who start a story don't finish it. So that only leaves 3% that finish a novel. Of those 3%, only a fifth get published.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a matter of learning the craft.
So if you get a book published, then you're really among one of the elite.
Yes.
That's true. So what in your opinion, what would be the difference between, let's say, a writer and an author?
Well, a writer writes to be an author. An author is published. But how would you say that? Everybody says, they come up and say, hey, I always wanted to write a book. Well, what's the difference between that guy and me and you and the others who got published? The difference is the writers that got published put their butts in the chairs and their fingers on the keyboard, and they wrote a story. There's a craft to it, just like anything. If you're going to play football, you got to practice. If you're going to be a writer, you got to practice. There's a magic, a trick to it. Getting a reader to believe that your characters are real, that they're in a real world, that they really have these real conflicts. Suspend disbelief. And as a writer gets better and better and writes more for the sake of the reader than the sake of the story, then they'll finally reach authordom somewhere along the line. Yeah.
Well, so what, there's a lot of myths about writing. What is one common myth that you want to debunk about writing?
Then it's easy. It's not easy. Everybody says, oh, anybody can write a book. No. It's one of the hardest endeavors a person will ever undertake. I knew a lawyer who could write 100-page briefs, no problem. But he wanted to he set out to write a novel, and he couldn't even write a 10-page chapter. He said it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. And he actually gave up. He gave up. He couldn't do it. So if you think it's easy, just, it's one thing to see a movie playing in your head and then typing it out on the paper. But that's not what a novel is. That's not what a story is. A story is more than a movie. It's to engage a reader by the words on the page takes a lot of practice.
Well, I just came across a joke. What's the difference between a writer and a large cheese pizza? The pizza can feed a family of 3.
Now that's true. You know, I've heard it said, I haven't counted them. I've heard it said that there are more professional football players than there are writers who make a living writing fiction.
I
So
believe it.
think about
Yeah.
that.
I believe it.
Yeah.
So if there's any writers that are or wannabe writers listening to this podcast, what advice would you give them as far as like if somebody was working on their first book?
Well, the first thing is don't give up. What I did was I read a lot of how-to books. Stephen King, Sol Stein, Donald Moss, all these writers shared their experiences and their knowledge in these kind of books, which helps a new writer. You have to plan ahead. You have to be clear. You have to learn the craft. I got most of my insights as a member of the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers. I was there for 19 years, like I said. I highly recommend elbow rubbing with fellow authors, fellow writers. It really helps develop the craft.
Well, there's lots of meetup groups. So if there's not a writer, I can't imagine an area not having a writers group, but there's also meetup groups that I'm sure are consisting of writers that they can all get together and maybe, talk about stories and share experiences.
Yeah, that's like Romance Writers of America, the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers. There's just every area has some kind of a writers group, probably within driving distance. I don't know. What's that? Crested Butte had one, has one. Colorado Springs has one. What is that called? Anyway, look it up. I recommend highly that a writer that's, especially one that's struggling, can get a lot of help from other writers. It's not like we can go to college and become a writer. I mean, you can take a writing course, but that doesn't make you a writer. Right. What makes you a writer is writing.
Well, that's true.
We can, doctors have it easy. They go to school and then they get a certificate they can put on the wall saying they're a doctor. We can't do that. We learned from our fellows.
That is true. And I know a lot of times when writers are in the process of writing, sometimes their mind just goes blank and they call that writer's block. What does that mean to you?
Writer's block is a lack of planning. Writers who write by the seat of their pants usually write themselves into a corner and they don't know what to write next. How am I going to get my character out of this? Like this. A funny thing happened to me on the way to the airport. Oh yeah, what was that? I don't know. If you don't know where the story's going, how can you tell the story? So you need to sit down and think about what you want to say, what your theme is going to be, how it's going to end, and then write towards that ending.
Do you recommend deadlines?
I don't know. Sometimes if you're under pressure to get something done, things get missed opportunities for emotion, tension, conflict, dialogue. No, I don't recommend deadlines. I recommend write. Just sit down and write.
Sounds
good. Some
good.
People have 5 hours a day. Some people have 30 minutes a day.
But yeah, just get down and write.
Right.
Yeah. So, so here's another joke I came across. So, what do you get when you cross a writer with a deadline? A really
Nope.
clean house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So, what is the most difficult part of the writing process?
my first thought is that everything, every bit about it is difficult. If it was easy, there'd be um, breakout novels falling from the sky, But for the most part, creating this world with structure and character that have well defined goals and high stakes, these are the things that engage readers. So it's one thing to write a scene and everybody's getting shot or making love or whatever. The hardest part is to engage the reader. Um, a lot of times I read things and wow, a lot of cool stuff happens and then it's the end. Oh, well, what, you know, the, the thing that's most important is the reader, write for the sake of the reader. I've said this before. Um, a reader may forget the details of your story, maybe a character's name or a scene or something like that, but they will never forget how your story made them feel. So, packed with emotion and suspense, keep the reader engaged, and that takes practice, practice, practice.
Well, so okay. And I could see how that would take a lot of practice. So again, from the new writer's perspective, it's like they want to write this book. Well, what would come first? The plot, the characters, and why would you pick that whatever order you're going to share?
Hmm. Well, storytelling is about characters in conflict with something, be it other characters, bad guy, the sea, the aliens, tornadoes, giant worms, whatever.
Tremors.
It's characters in conflict with something. Um, Characters have arcs. And I'll just read this off real quick. What does the character want? Why does the character want it? Why can't the character have it? What does the character have to do to get it? And what happens if the character fails? That's the arc of the story, the
Wow.
character. So if you're missing any of that, the arc's going to collapse. You need to keep the thread of what, motivation to goal, high stakes, win or lose. It all has to be in there.
Hmm.
And that goes really in conjunction with the elements of a story. I think we talked about that at one point. Um, and this, remember, the bad guy is the hero of his own story. The good guy is the hero of his story. Um, these characters have their normal world, and they come to an inciting incident which threatens to change that normal world. There's a call to action. A lot of times the character will turn down the call to action, but something personal comes up that puts them on that journey, the story, the plot. It also sets up obstacles and goals. What's the story? What does this character want? What's the goal of the story? So there's turning points in a story, at least one. And it gets down to the black moment when the goal is totally lost, appears to be totally lost. And then the climax of the story, where the good guy and the bad guy go at it. The antagonist and the protagonist come to heads, and in the end is the resolution. Sometimes the world is restored and sometimes not. But those elements for both the characters, and even sometimes they'll throw in a sidekick. He's got his story too. So it's
Good
so
old Robin. Robin and Batman.
There you go. It's so frustrating when a character starts off trying to find the goose that laid the golden egg and ends up marrying the boss's daughter. He didn't want that. That's not what the story was about. You forgot about the goose. So it's frustrating to see that, but writers are going to make those mistakes. And
yeah,
if a good editor can pick that out.
That's good. Well, I know you when we were going through the process, I remember you told me when we first started, don't take this personal, but I'm gonna rip this apart. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm looking at the product, the overall product. I'm not so hung up on, oh, it's my words. It's like, no, I want a good product that people are going to really enjoy. And if that means we need to edit. And I remember you had me write, I remember at the time you had me throw out certain chapters, and I'm like, why? And you said, because those chapters don't keep moving it forward. And I was thinking at the time, oh, but this is because it's about Berlin. And I was thinking, a travel log. It's like, oh, but this is a really nice, thing that we're going to talk about the Reichstag and about the Berlin Wall. And you're like, how does it keep the story moving forward? It didn't. And so it was like, I get it. And and then I remember there was other parts where you said, hey, we need to add a little bit over here. And it's like, okay. And I would do that. So you've been a very good mentor, and that totally changed everything for me, and made a pretty dang good book.
Oh yeah, the Berlin Affair. Yeah, it's got a great case of the good girl and the bad girl.
TWB Press.
Yeah, the good girl and the bad girl. They don't have to be guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's an evil character in there. So let me see. I've got a joke for you. So speaking about editing, I've got another joke.
Okay.
What type of blood does a proofreader have? What blood type does a proofreader have? Typo.
Typo. Yeah, you can't have
writer's joke.
Yep. That's another thing. A lot of people think, the editor's job is to proofread. Well, yeah, but a good editor is going to content edit and show you the writer where things go off the rails. And every work, whether it's a magazine article, a newspaper article, what's that thing? The TV people read on the teleprompter. Those are all edited. Everything is edited. And so are books, short stories, novels, screenplays. There's a writer and an editor, and they work together for what, like you say, a product. Mm-hmm. Some writers think, oh, this is my baby, I love my book, but they don't realize that it ain't got any fingers and one eye, and it's got no teeth. And,
pretty what I mean? Baby.
It's all jacked up, so it takes an editor to show the writer where he's going wrong, so that when it's over, when he's got a better book, a more engaging book for the reader, because it's all about the reader.
It's all about the reader and the product. Good. Yeah. Hey, so I've got a question for you. Are you still doing your lesbian zombies videos?
Okay. One of my good friends, fellow author, and he wrote a couple of books, Invasion of the Lesbian Zombies and War of the Lesbian Zombies. Pretty crazy, but we worked together on it, put some heart in it, and it's believable. decided to make a video book on YouTube. It's not going to be a movie. Nobody's going to buy his story for a movie. No, they didn't buy mine. But with using clips and photographs and images and graphic arts, we were able to put together 20 episodes of War of the Lesbian Zombies, and it's on a YouTube channel, the Lesbian Zombie YouTube channel. I did have some cards made up that
Oh,
have
excellent.
the QR code and all that, but my YouTube channel, the link is right there on TWB Press's homepage, just on the left column. Boom, our YouTube channel, and that I think there's 100 some videos, trailers,
Oh, wow.
book trailers.
Nice.
And some of my older ones, they're okay, but just boy, there's some of these newer ones. When I get better over the years of making these things, they turn out pretty nice.
Well, I think the Berliner Fair was the first book trailer you did, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, was it? Oh,
not the first one I
was.
did. Well, for another author, I think it might have been.
Oh, okay.
But because I did trailers for my novels.
Okay.
And well, you almost have to go see them, because the whole idea of a trailer is to get people interested in buying the book. My website for TWB Press is huge. It's not like a boring book list of books. You click on a cover, you go to the page, you got a blurb, you got a video, you got links to purchase. Sometimes there's a free excerpt, part of not much, but you can go click on YouTube and look inside. They have a little link, look inside, and Barnes and Noble has it too. You get that kind of okay, how's this thing start off? How's the writing? You can get a good idea if it's junk or if it's actually a good product, just by the excerpt. So
cool. Well, I encourage everybody to check it out. So I have an off the wall question for you.
Okay.
If you could bring 5 people with you to a desert island, who would you pick and why?
You know what the problem with that is? I don't know 5 people that I would go to the desert island with. Yeah, no, that would be a tough one. I take Bobette everywhere, but I don't think she'd appreciate being stranded on a desert island.
Okay, so then if you were able, so another desert island question. So if you were to pick one thing that you could bring with you, one thing, what would you bring?
On a desert island, there's no power. There's no electricity. There's no way I can bring my laptop and have it last very long. I don't know. A Bowie knife, but I don't think there's anything to kill on the island. Wow, as a matter of fact, one of my Justin Graves stories had Cat Island, and this guy that was allergic to cats, the bad guy, he ends up on Cat Island. Yeah, that was a good one.
That's funny. I don't think I've read that book. I have to add that to my list of things to read. So
yeah,
well, okay. So I've got a couple more questions I want to close with. Oh, there's the book.
There's Justin Graves.
Justin
Now
Graves.
this cover, I paid an artist to do this cover, because no matter how much I tried, I could not get this guy right.
Ah.
And this gal in Indonesia made this cover,
Nice.
and
It's a
just
beautiful cover.
him brought Justin Graves to life for me.
Nice.
So.
Well, okay. So I've got a couple more questions, and then we're gonna close it up for the night. So if you could wave a magic wand and change anything, what would you change?
Wave a magic wand and change something. Now that's huge.
Yep.
You know that.
Yep.
That's huge.
I know.
You
That's
know,
why I'm asking
a guy could say, "Peace on earth,
Ooh.
goodwill to men." You know, that's so cliched, and I don't know. Professionals have tried and it hasn't worked. I think I wish my mother would have lived longer. If I had a magic wand, I would have given her another 5 years anyway.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, so it was really fun talking with you, Terry. And if you think back on what we just talked about, gosh, we just talked about so much. What was your favorite part of the episode?
Of this podcast?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes the parts where we talk about authors, you know, wannabe authors, new authors, you know, I enjoy helping, encouraging authors to write. I tell them that they don't have to do it alone. There are places and people and ways to help you become a writer. And a lot of it has to do with how motivated are they. I've published books that had never sold one. I can't sell your book. I can't sell anybody's book but my own. Hell, I have enough trouble selling my own. But the author, people buy authors. They like you. They buy your books. They get to know you. Like Stephen King, everybody knows what kind of book he's going to write. Finding this writer's journey to identity, to finding a place in this world, because their book is going to be here long after they're gone. And someday somebody's going to be going through an attic and they're going to open a chest and they're going to pull out the 13th power, dust it off, and they will have, I will live again because of that book.
That's nice. That's a really nice way of thinking of it.
Yeah, I want other writers to have that. I'm in the business of opportunity. I give them the opportunity to become best-selling authors. Their books are available worldwide. You don't have to buy 1,000 of them at a time. You know, they're print on demand. Boom, boom, boom. It's up to the author to take that and run with it. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity is there. And I certainly do enjoy helping them along their journey.
That's lovely. Well, it was wonderful talking with you, Terry. And it just sounds like you're just doing some really great things. And I'm really happy that you're so successful and that you're helping other writers become successful. And you're doing just great work. So I want to thank you very much for joining me on this podcast. And then, so if people want to get in touch with you, do they just go to your website, twbpress.com, or email you? How would you like people to reach out to you?
Well, I don't really have my email out there, but it's twbpress@gmail.com.
Pretty easy.
A good way to get a hold of me.
Okay, cool.
Mostly it's about me communicating through a podcast.
Awesome.
I do workshops. I teach writing in workshops and stuff like that. So
cool.
That's mostly how you can get a hold of me.
Great.
Is through an event. But twbpress@gmail.com. Drop me a line and I'm glad to talk to you.
Well, thanks again for joining. And folks, if you've really enjoyed this podcast, please, of course, check out TWB Press, but of course, hit that subscribe button. That's going to be right after the video. Subscribe, because we've got some really fun things happening in our next podcast. The topic for that will be our pets are fine furry friends, something a little bit different. So anyway,
Yep.
thanks again, Terry, and we will chat with you later. And I'd like to invite you back as a guest in a later episode if you would like.
Yeah, I would like to talk to writers about the publishing process.
Excellent.
That'll make for a good podcast.
Okay, we will do that.
Okay.
All right. Thank
All right.
you. Bye. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful rest of your
Bye.
week. Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.